This is Rock and Roll English. Real people, real English. Here's your host, Martin Johnston.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll English, episode number 74. And what an episode it is. I speak to Dan the Man about free stuff because we have to find things to talk about, don't we? So I thought we would talk about that. But in today's show, you will be treated to me singing. That's right. That wasn't the plan. I was going to play a song at that point, but I couldn't find the song to download. So I have left in the bit of me singing. Normally I cut that bit out of the podcast and you don't listen to it. But I had no choice, okay? So, you will listen to me singing. I'm expecting, big things from this, big record labels to contact me for my singing voice. Probably I'll be the next Ed Sheeran, but, we'll wait for that one. And one more thing before we start is about transcripts. Obviously, Dan did a transcript last week for free, but a few listeners have mentioned about doing a transcript where they write, or you write, the transcript, listening to different parts of the podcast, because detailed listening is very good for learning. This all started from a listener called Joanna who wrote me a message before Christmas that I forgot to mention on the live video. But we want to do this, but we have a small problem in that we don't really know how to do this. So if anyone wants to get in contact and help us out, that would be great. Anyway, I will stop talking now. Enjoy the show, and I will speak to you again at the end. Dan the Man, how are you today?
I'm good, how are you?
Oh, fantastic, Dan. What did you do to celebrate our anniversary?
Nothing. What about you?
Nothing.
Nothing.
So,
When was it? It was yesterday, wasn't it?
I don't know the specific date, Dan. I know it was more or less this time of year, okay?
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, how do we start the show, Dan?
With a review, normally.
Well, I was going to say, do you think we have a review? But I saw you just responded to the message on Facebook. Dan now, as people may have seen, is a bit more active. He's no longer a man of mystery. He's responding to messages.
Well, your response rate has dropped rapidly, so...
Well, that's not true. I'm at work for like 10 hours in a day, Dan, okay?
I feel like I've had to jump in and save this sinking ship.
Sure. Thank God for you, Dan. What would I do without you? For the last year, I've been responding to all the messages on my own, and now you're saving me. Thank you. Anyway, yes, thanks. We do have a review. It's from Carmen Silva, and I think I might actually have the pronunciation correct for once, although I'm not sure. And it says, "Hi, Martin and Dan." Martin is first. That's what we like to see. "It has been so funny listening to your podcast and helpful. While I'm walking to work, I never miss listening to your adventures, and sometimes I feel like an idiot laughing alone. Good work and keep on rocking."
I don't think we have adventures, though, do we? I don't think we're that exciting.
What are you talking about, Dan? We're always on adventures. You skiing the other day or snowboarding? That was a great adventure, wasn't it?
Okay, what else?
Okay, we don't have that many adventures, Dan. Okay, but some we do have. Okay. Anyway, I hope all the listeners enjoyed Dan the Man's free gift. What was it again, Dan?
The transcript of the last episode.
Oh yeah. Finally, Dan the Man has done something useful. But that moves us on nicely to the topic of today's show. Do you know what the topic of today's show is, Dan?
I don't know why you're asking me. You haven't told me. How could I possibly know?
Well, I just enjoy making you look stupid. The topic of today's show, Dan, is free, like free stuff. Because that transcript, did people have to pay for that?
No.
No, they did not, Dan. It was free. So we're going to look at why people are obsessed with free stuff. And just free stuff in general, and then some vocabulary with some other terms about, that have the word free in it. Can you handle that, Dan?
I certainly hope so, yeah.
Yeah, remember, can you handle it? It's like, can you manage it? So first of all, just got some word from a couple of philosophers. Okay, so listen closely, Dan. The best things in life are free. Now that I've discovered what you mean to me. The best things in life are free. Now we've got each other. The best things in life are free.
This can be an outtake one time.
So, do you know what philosophers sang that, Dan?
I don't know.
Luther Vandross and Janet Jackson.
Okay.
So, do you believe that the best things in life are free? Take your time, Dan. Take your time.
I do.
Thank God.
Do you?
I don't know. My iPad's pretty good.
Although that's pretty rich from them to say that as multimillionaires. You know?
Yeah, exactly. And that was some nice rock and roll vocabulary when you used there, Dan, when you said that's rich of them. Not because they're rich. If you say something like that, for example, if Dan said, Martin, you're boring, I would say, that's rich coming from you, Dan. Like, you can say that. You are boring.
I like the way you've snuck in an insult.
Well, I like to do that. Even some more rock and roll vocabulary there, Dan. Snuck in. So almost like secretly tried to put in. But yeah, I did try to do that. So well done. So yeah, Janet Jackson there. I did some research on her and thought, is there anything we can say about Janet Jackson? Looked on strange facts about Janet Jackson. Number 1, she is the sister of Michael Jackson.
Is that strange?
Is the strange fact. And I thought, wow, no shit. Which is a nice term there, which means like that's obvious. Speaking of brothers, though, the listeners may know last week I referred to my brother and how I don't get him an anniversary card and how he thinks I'm a bastard. He happened to listen to that podcast, the very first podcast he listened to, out of 70. What's this? 74?
Yeah.
And the first podcast he listened to was the one when I said something bad about him.
Yeah. Well, that serves you right for slagging him off. You should have known better.
Well, I should have known better. Nice past modal verbs there, Dan. And some nice rock and roll vocabulary. Slagging him off. Speaking badly about someone is slagging someone off. I often slag Dan off, not to his face.
Always to my face.
Well, that's the thing, Dan. That shows we have a good relationship because I can slag you off even to your face. And some other facts about Janet Jackson. She has 4 dogs, apparently. So I think she's even more of an idiot. So basically, the best facts I could find is 1, she is the sister of Michael Jackson, which, to be fair, is pretty interesting, but everybody knows that. And the second thing was she has 4 dogs. So, that is that. Anyway, talking about the best things in life for free, one of the best things in life is for free, Dan. Do you know what it is?
Well, is this in your opinion, or is this some...
Yeah, my opinion, I suppose.
Okay, well, you tell me then. I don't... How the fuck am I going to know?
Nice there, Dan. How the fuck am I supposed to know? Just emphasising, how is he supposed to know there? Rock and roll English, Dan. What are you talking about is for free?
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Sure. Look how excited he is about that. Although, do you think, Dan, having something for free is always valuable?
What do you mean?
Well, sometimes people like to pay for stuff, don't they? Because then they think, well, I've paid for it. I'm going to do it.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. If I don't pay for something, I often don't do it.
Well, that's the same as me, Dan. In fact, lots of students at my school, I often ask them, like, why don't you just try and study on your own? And they say, because if I don't pay for it, then I won't come. I think, but you're paying like €1,000 just to make yourself do something.
Yeah, but there's these things you can do now. There's these websites where...
Here we go. Another website, like the website where he had to pay someone to send himself a letter.
It's quite similar.
Come on, tell me. How does it work?
So say you want to run a marathon and you make that commitment. There are companies where you can give them, and you choose the amount of money, but you can give them like £300 and you only get the money back if you do what you say you're going to do. Otherwise, it goes to charity.
What kind of business is this?
Otherwise, it goes to charity.
Oh, right. Okay, it goes to charity. Okay.
Would you do that?
No. Why would I give someone... I'd give it to, like, someone I know.
Yeah, but there's a chance you might start crying and then asking for your money back, whereas you can't do that with this company.
I am a very motivated individual, Dan. I don't need to send myself letters or give money to people to make myself do stuff, okay? I can do it myself. Anyway, what's the best thing you've ever got for free?
Well, thanks for giving me no notice on that question.
Well, that's okay, because I have an answer for you,
Okay.
which is when I got you the first ever Nokia camera phone. Okay, we're talking about 2002 here.
Hang on. You didn't get it for me. You won it.
No, I got it. And nice vocabulary there when he said, hang on. He says this a lot, actually. It actually means wait, because he likes to interrupt me when I speak. But
I love to.
Never mind. Anyway, I did actually get that because they called me and said, Martin, you're a fantastic customer. We want to give you a phone and we will give it to one other person. Who did I choose? Dan the man.
But I remember at the time you were worried that it was a scam.
Yeah, so a scam is like when someone tries to sort of, take money from you or steal from you. Well, it's not often someone phones you up and gives you a new phone. The latest phone on the market, may I add.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Well, finally, what was that, 16 years later, finally a thank you. And I also have a story about free things here. Someone said apparently he had a fridge that he wanted to get rid of. What does it mean to get rid of, Dan?
To throw away.
Yeah, because he had a new one. He put it outside his house for free. Nothing happened. Then he thought, okay, now I'm going to put a price on it. Put a price on it for 50 quid. What's 50 quid, Dan?
£50.
And then someone nicked it. What does it mean, someone nicked it, Dan?
Someone stole it.
Someone stole it, exactly. English slang for steal means nick. Well, actually, nick means steal, I suppose. So have you ever stolen anything, Dan?
No, I'm too honest, I think. That's my
Oh,
problem.
here we go. Such a good Samaritan.
Have you?
Dan, I nick about 10 pens a day at work from students as well. They give me a pen. I am a pen nicker. Okay.
Out of their pockets, yeah.
Oh, I'll take a pen from anywhere. And what about anything stolen from you?
I had my car nicked on New Year's Eve once.
Really? I can't remember that. Actually, it rings a bell. So when I say it rings a bell, it sort of sounds familiar, but I can't specifically remember it. Where?
At Tesco, the supermarket.
Tesco. Dan used to work at Tesco's, this supermarket. Yeah. He was like the number one employee there.
It was the best job I ever had. Yeah, I was working on New Year's Eve and they asked me to stay an hour later. So I said yes, on the condition that I could A, move my car from upstairs, and B, work on the trolleys. And they said yes. So I moved my car, and then whilst I was pushing the trolleys around the car park, it got nicked within 3 minutes.
Did you see the person driving it away?
No, but I'm pretty sure when I parked the car, someone parked behind me, and it was them.
Your car was shit anyway. Why would anyone want to steal that?
Just a couple of lads having fun.
So a couple of lads, sort of like young men, let's say. That's probably the same car park where we used to record the podcast that we played last week.
No, that was a different one.
Right, okay.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Well, that was a great new year for you, hey Dan?
Yeah, it was awful. What about you? What have you had nicked?
Just pens again. I nick pens and people nick them from me all of the time. Actually, I've got another thing about free, actually, that I got for free once. When I got my hair cut, this was about 6 years ago, I said, I'm trying to grow my hair, so don't cut it too much. But, hairdressers, they just love to cut, don't they? That's what they do. They think, I'm here to cut. I don't care what you say. I'm going to cut this hair.
I'm the professional. Shut up.
Yeah, exactly. So I said, trying just to sort of grow this. And he got a razor out, electric razor, and it was going like zzz. And I thought maybe he's just going to do that little bit of hair I have on the back of my neck because, I am a bit like a monkey, a bit hairy. And then all of a sudden he starts cutting into the back of my hair. All of this hair that I've been growing for 6 months falls to the floor. Notice there, I had been growing. Past perfect continuous. Boom. Rock and roll grammar, that. Anyway, and then he said to me, the typical thing, they show you the mirror, they show you the back of the hair, and they say, is this okay? Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Just what I wanted.
Did you tip him?
No, well, actually, I can't. I probably did, actually, because it was in England, and I sort of felt obliged. And then the next day I was at work, and I was just fuming. What does it mean, fuming, Dan?
You're very, very angry. I actually remember this story, though. I'm fairly certain your mum phoned them up to complain for you.
I don't. That is definitely not true.
And they gave you money off your next haircut.
That is definitely not true. I will finish the story. Thank you very much. Because that is utter bollocks. So when I said utter, that means complete. Okay.
I know your mum listens to this show, so yeah, Martin's mum. If you can write in and let us know, that'd be great.
Anyway, as I said, that is utter bollocks. It's complete rubbish. Because I went back the next day because I was so fuming, and I said to the man, "Look, I wanted it long, and you've cut it." And he said, "Well, you didn't say anything yesterday." And I said, "Well, I didn't know what to say. I was under pressure, okay?" And he said, "Well, what can I do?" And I said, I don't know, hair extensions?
You were joking.
Hair extensions are like fake things you put into your hair. I was desperate, Dan, okay? This was
a long
time ago.
You asked for hair extensions?
Well, I didn't know what to say, so I just said something stupid. So I said hair extensions. He burst out laughing. So notice he burst out laughing. He started laughing a lot. And he said, "No, next time you come and get your haircut, you can do it for free." And I thought, okay. I don't know why I went back, because obviously he gave me a shit haircut. And then after the haircut, about 6 months later, because it was for free, I felt obliged to give him something. So I asked to buy like the hair product that cost more than the haircut.
God. Your hair never recovered, did it?
Well, I don't know, Dan. It's made a fantastic recovery. Anyway, so I've got some vocabulary free, lots of phrases with free, okay? And lots of phrases, and we can see how we can involve Dan in these, okay? One phrase here is free spirit. So do you know any free spirits, Dan?
I don't know, do you?
Well, I know one that used to work in a really boring job and then moved to France and became a semi-vegetarian.
Yeah, sounds like a great guy.
How is the semi-vegetarian thing going?
Well, I'm eating fish now, so I don't know. Maybe I'm 3/4 a meat eater. I don't know.
Okay. Another very similar to that, free spirit, is to be footloose and fancy free. That's rock and roll vocabulary.
I've never heard that saying.
You've never heard that?
No. What sort of people are you hanging around?
Oh, Dan, what the fuck are you talking about? You've been living in France too long. You've been like meditating and stuff like this for too long. Anyway, another one is free reign. Okay, so if you give someone free reign, it means let them do what they want. For example, I gave Dan free reign recently with all of the messages. So if there's been any offensive messages you've received on Facebook, okay, it was Dan the man, not me.
Yeah, I apologise.
How's the free reign of the messages been going though, Dan?
Yeah, going quite well. I haven't been signing off as Dan the man, but I've...
Well, should you though? Should you?
What, would you rather people know that it's me messaging and not you?
Well, because I'm just worried if you say something offensive, because, you know, you're not as quite politically correct as me.
What are you talking about? Bullshit.
Anyway, no, I'm joking. It's fine. So, freelance. So if you work freelance, it means you work for yourself. I was wondering, Dan, is that how you describe your job status at the moment?
Yeah, self-employed.
Yeah, freelance.
Yeah, freelance, self-employed, yeah.
Yeah, but what are you? Because you can have like a freelance journalist, a freelance photographer. So you are a freelance
human being.
Fantastic. Although I do think that's another word for free spirit, a freelance human being. Fantastic. Okay, so to get away scot-free. Ooh, what does that mean, Dan? If you get away scot-free?
When you get away without being punished.
Yeah, if you do something wrong. Do you know where that comes from, Dan?
Do
you think it comes from Scotland?
No, I think it's a criminal called Scott.
No, there's no criminal called Scott. Apparently it's from Scandinavian, and Scott in like sort of Scandinavian or something in the past meant tax. So it actually means tax-free.
Oh, that's the first interesting thing I think you've ever said on the podcast.
You have said that line, the first interesting thing you've ever said on the podcast, at least 5 times. So this must be like the 5th interesting thing I've said on the podcast, at least.
Okay, 5 out of 74. That's not bad, actually.
But yeah, that's it, Dan. The only things in life are certain. What are they?
Death and taxes.
Yep, that's right. Are you paying any taxes at the moment, Dan?
Well,
you're a human being. Do you have to pay taxes as a human being? Freelance human being. Oh, that's some big tax, baby.
I don't know. How do you define tax?
Yeah, I mean, come on, Dan. This is supposed to be a laugh, this podcast. So when I say a laugh, it's supposed to be fun. Let's not talk about taxes. So another one is free will. So if you do something on your free will, it means you do it like alone without anyone asking you. Like Dan writing that transcript on his free will, he did that. Nobody said, Dan, why don't you write a transcript? So, you know, what a fantastic human being he is.
I know, it's unbelievable, isn't it?
Unbelievable.
Here's to Dan.
Here's to Dan. Yeah. Another one is freeway. So what is a freeway, Dan?
Hang on, are you saying freeway or three-way?
That is an interesting point. I had this last. Let's actually talk about that now then. The pronunciation between free, like the something is free you don't pay for, and like three is the magic number. Because for me, well, Dan and I come from Essex, so we sort of often have the TH we pronounce like an F.
I don't.
Well, in fact, Dan doesn't actually. And an interesting story I have, because Dan is a bit more sort of, you know, upper class, whilst I'm more your normal man on the street.
It's fucking bullshit.
So Dan actually speaks sort of a bit better than me. He has more pronunciation like the Queen, let's say.
Much better.
And this is a true story, Dan. I don't think I've ever told you this. Once, when you came to see me in Rome, I was saying to you this exact thing, how my THs sound like Fs. And I remember you showed me with your mouth and you said, no, it's like, and you put your tongue between your teeth and said, for example, 3 and mother.
Yeah.
And so you actually taught me how to do it, because before that I was teaching people English. I remember specifically teaching someone the word, well, mother, and I was saying mother.
Are you serious?
And the student was repeating it, saying mother, and I was like, oh. He actually said mother fanculo, which in Italian is like fuck off.
So really, I actually taught you how to speak at 25.
Yeah, well, how to speak, just a TH. I was just teaching people an Essex accent before that, Dan. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. Anyway, we were talking about freeway, like with an F. Freeway.
Mm-hmm.
What is a freeway?
It's what the Americans call a motorway.
It was exactly what the Americans say, motorway. Dan and I say, well, exactly, as he just said, motorway, which we say in England. But I've got a nice song from Freeway, Dan. What do you think I'm going to play here?
Oh, fantastic.
This is from like Dan and I's favourite TV programme called The Office. So here we are.
Free love on the Freelove freeway. The love is free and the freeway's long. I got some hot love on the hot love highway. Ain't going home 'cause my baby's gone. She's gone. Free love on the Freelove freeway. The love is free and the freeway's long. I got some hot love on the hot love highway. Going home 'cause my baby's gone. She's gone, yeah. My baby's gone. She's gone, yeah. Gone away. She's gone, yeah. She's just gone away. Woo. She's gone, yeah.
So that's just a very small scene from the programme, and we definitely recommend to watch that. This is our favourite show. But are we talking about the British one or the American one, Dan?
Don't ask stupid questions, Martin.
Exactly. Because, well, I was saying we, not Dan and I, British people or Ricky Gervais, made this show called The Office. And then the Americans, instead of just thinking, okay, we speak the same language, we'll just show this TV program, they created their own show called The Office with American actors and basically ripped us off. What does it mean, Dan? They ripped us off in this context.
They completely stole the idea and made a copy of it.
Copied us. Bloody Americans, hey, Dan?
Yeah, makes me sick.
Exactly. On that note, on that negative note, I think it's time to stop the podcast, Dan, okay?
Yeah, okay.
Just remember, though, the best things in life are...
Free.
Free, with an F, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for your time, Dan.
Yeah, okay, I'll speak to you next week.
Yeah, see you later.
See you later. Okay,
so that was Dan the Man and me speaking about free stuff. Before we get on to the rock and roll vocabulary, one important thing I wanted to say about pronunciation and the fact that Dan taught me how to pronounce like the TH in English is that pronunciation is actually a physical thing as well. It's not just sound. So if you have difficulty with a sound, watch people and watch what they do. Like I watched Dan's mouth, okay? Because it's not just sound, it's also physical. Anyway, let's move on to the rock and roll vocabulary. We had quite a lot actually today. We had handle at the beginning when I said to Dan, can you handle that? Which means can you manage that? And we had the word rich in a different context when Dan said it's pretty rich coming from them. Remember I used the example of like Dan saying that I'm boring and I would say to him, well, that's rich coming from you. It's difficult to explain that one, but that's the context of it. We had snuck when Dan said that I snuck in an insult. That is actually the past of the verb sneak. Although some people do say sneaked, and it means to do something sort of like in a hidden way. You can also sneak around, which is like walking very quietly. Or sneak in an insult, which is what I did, like in a hidden way. We had the term no shit when we discovered that Janet Jackson is Michael Jackson's sister. And I said, no shit. That means like, yes, I know. Don't be so stupid. Everybody knows. We had slag someone off, which is to speak bad about them. We had Dan's favourite one as well, which is hang on. I mean, he says that every show, but I just sort of mentioned it today, which means wait, when he always says, hang on. And then he talks and interrupts me. But, that's another story. And we had the word scam, which is like when someone tried to steal money from you, let's say. And we had quid, when we talked about 50 quid, which is slang for pounds in England. And we also had the term nick, about when someone nicked the fridge, which is steal something. Remember, I nick pens, and people nick pens from me. Remember, that is English slang, but very common. We had the term rings a bell when I was talking about Dan, and well, Dan mentioned the story about his car getting nicked, and I said, oh yeah, that rings a bell. I can't remember it, but it rings a bell in my head. It sounds familiar. We had the term fuming, which is very angry. And also utter bollocks. Bollocks, we've had that a lot of times. It means like rubbish. But utter is like complete, like even more than complete. It's complete bollocks. It's utter bollocks. And we had the term burst out laughing. It's just a strong way to say laughing. And then we had the terms with free, which Dan said he didn't know this term, which is mental because it's not that common, but, people say it is to be footloose and fancy free, which basically is the same as a free spirit, like Dan. We had free reign, which is when you give someone control of something, which I gave to Dan, let's say. I gave him free reign of the messages. We had scot-free, which is when you do something, like let's say bad, and then you are not punished for it. And we had the term free will, which is when you do something without anyone asking you, like from your own will. Freeway, which is the American term for motorway. And rip someone off. In this context, it means to copy someone. The Americans ripped off our TV show. The bastards. Anyway, on that note, probably time to end the podcast. I don't really hate Americans, okay? It's just a joke. Just banter, which is just friendly jokes, let's say. Anyway, remember, all of this rock and roll vocabulary is on the website, rockandrollenglish.com. Go there, do the quiz, have fun, and just keep on rocking, baby.
Thanks so much for listening to Rock and Roll English. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit rockandrollenglish.com and facebook.com/rockandrollenglish. We'll catch you next time.